Hi, welcome to my April TBR. I just got home from work and took the dog out and threw some food in the oven, and I'm gonna try and do this TBR warp speed. So let's see how fast I can do this. I cannot be held responsible for the amount of books that are on this TBR. There are so many good books in the world that I really want to read. I just put them all on the TBR, and they're the ones that I will reach for, and if I get to them all, I get to them all, and if I don't, I don't. You know the drill. I keep forgetting to say hi, my name is Jenna. So hi, my name is Jenna, and welcome to my April TBR. So we're gonna start with Read Harder Challenge. The first book I'll read for the Read Harder Challenge is Free Water by Amina Dawson, it looks like. It's very small, I can't really see it very well, but by Amina Dawson. And this one is about a 12-year-old boy. It just won the Caldecott Medal. It's about a 12-year-old boy who is a slave, and he and his sister run away from the plantation that he works at, end up in a swamp community. It's loosely based on true story. I don't know what's true about it and what's not. I don't have a physical copy of it because this is the prompt for the Read Harder Challenge, where you listen to a book written by and narrated by a person of color. So I'm very excited about this brand new middle grade Caldecott book, and I'm going to dive right into it. The second prompt for Read Harder Challenge that I'm going to read, I'm fudging a little bit. The prompt is actually to read a graphic novel. I don't know what the rest of it was because all I wrote down was read a graphic novel, but I know I'm not quite doing exactly what it asks for. So I'm going to read, finally, after so many times of putting these two on my TBR, I'm finally going to read the third and fourth in the series, Witch Hat Atelier. This is a series about a young girl who finds out that either she got some powers through a pin that she purchased at a fair, or she's always had them. She accidentally turns her mother to stone, and she really wants to figure out like who she is, how to save her mother. And in the meantime, she's living at this house with other young witches, kind of like Hogwarts, only there's very few of them. So I'm just going to continue on with that. Next, I am going to read a third Read Harder Challenge book because this is also the book that my Facebook friend recommended that I read this month for the 12 in 12 challenge. And that is The Many Daughters of Afang Moy. This is going to be the local author prompt for the Read Harder Challenge. And again, like I said, it is also the book that was recommended to me by my Facebook friend for the 12 and 12 challenge. And this one is not about what I thought it was about at all. I love Jamie Ford. In fact, I'm also about to teach Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet to my 8th graders. So I'll have a lot of Jamie Ford this month and next month too. But this book has a kind of like reincarnation aspect to it. He always writes about Pacific Northwest and Asian American culture. In this one, it says Dorothy Moy was Washington's former poet laureate. That's how she describes channeling her dissociative. I'm trying to move too quickly, so I'm skipping important things. Says Dorothy Moy breaks her own heart for a living. That's how she describes channeling her dissociative episodes and mental health struggles into her art. Then her 5-year-old daughter starts having memories from past ancestors. And so she seeks help from an experimental treatment to mitigate inherited trauma, and ends up interacting somehow with women from her past in her family, like with her ancestors. I don't know how this is going to work. Knowing Jamie Ford's writing as well as I do, I am curious to see where he goes with this, and I am really excited that this was recommended to me. For my book that was recommended to me for 12 for 12 from my Instagram friend, for my Bookstagram friend, I'm going to be reading Special Topics in Calamity Physics. Now, I've heard this title over and over and over again over the years, have no clue what it's about. I've read the synopsis and I still have no clue what it's about. So here is the synopsis. Blue Vanmere is very smart, but she could use some friends. Upon entering the elite St. Galway school, she finds some, a clique of eccentrics known as the Blue Bloods. One drowning and one hanging later, Blue finds herself puzzling out a Byzantine murder mystery. When it's something like really big and complicated, I say Byzantine. When I'm thinking about like Turkish kingdoms, like the Ottoman Empire, I say Byzantine. Do you do that? I don't know if that's correct or not, but that's what I've always done. So this is a Byzantine murder mystery. I really don't know what it's about, but hey, it was recommended to me. I will give it a go. For my book of the month choice, I picked Lone Women by Victor Lavelle. This sounds so scary, and I'm very excited. Basic synopsis, Adelaide Henry carries an enormous steamer trunk with her wherever she goes. It's locked at all times because when the trunk opens, people around Adelaide start to disappear. I'm not going to read any more of that, but yes, please. Yes, please. Then my wonderful Galentine for the book exchange that I did on Bookstagram sent me 2 books, and I'm going to get to one of them this month, and that is Kate Claiborne's Georgie All Along. So I think this one is about a personal assistant who doesn't really know. She's kind of like that woman in that Julia Roberts plays in Runaway Bride. She doesn't know how she likes her eggs. She doesn't know, like, she just kind of fits herself to meet the needs of whoever is the most important person in her life at that moment. And she, I think, either leaves or loses her job and has to return home, or maybe she returns home to take care of somebody, finds in her old bedroom a, what do they call it? Friend fic that she wrote, like fanfic, only friend fic. So if she had a friend, or if she were a friend, I think, this is how her life would be. This is what she would do. These are the exciting things that she would take part in. And it inspires her to try and find out who she really is. And I think from the title, we'll know she's going to find out she was Georgie all along. But I'm good for the ride. I'm good for the ride. I'm excited about it. On my Kindle, I want to read The Tour by Jean Granger. I love the description of this. It sounds like that movie, The Ruins. Is that what it's called? The Ruins is a book I just read. I don't think that can possibly... Life in Ruins. Life in Ruins with the woman from My Big Fat Greek Wedding. She's in it, and that takes place in Rome, but it sounds very much the same. So this one says, a charming Irish bus driver, a group of disparate American tourists, one life-changing week. Take a tour you'll never forget as you navigate the stunning vistas of gorgeous Ireland along with the hearts and minds of a cast of characters who will live with you long after you've finished this book. Sounds good. It sounds good. Antony and Cleopatra. Antony and Cleopatra. It dramatizes... Somebody pointed out to me that I never explain what any of the plays are about. I've been reading them over and over and over for the last 3 years, so I kind of forget to explain. Doesn't everybody know what all of these are about? This one is about Antony and Cleopatra, but really it's about Caesar, the first emperor, Octavius Caesar, who later becomes Augustus Caesar, and how he has these 2 friends, Mark Antony and Lepidus, and how these 2 people stand beside him, and then he gets power. He becomes the most powerful, and how Caesar then turns on them. He betrays them, basically. And so that is the action that's going on, but then the focus is really on the relationship between Mark Antony and Cleopatra and how their love of each other overshadows even the betrayal of Augustus Caesar. So It's really melodramatic. It is not my favorite, but it's the one that my group is reading this month, and so read it I shall. For the Kindred Spirits Book Club, we will be reading Excellent Women by Barbara Prim. I've never read a Barbara Prim. They've never really sounded like something I would enjoy, but if Kate Howe says, hey, let's read a Barbara Prim, I'm gonna read a Barbara Prim. So this says, Mildred Lathbury, a clergyman's daughter and a mild-mannered spinster in 1950s England, is one of those excellent women. The smart, supportive, overlooked women who people take for granted. As Mildred gets embroiled in the lives of her new neighbors, anthropologist Helena Napier, her handsome, dashing husband Rocky, and Julian Mallory, the vicar next door, the novel presents a series of snapshots of human life as actually and pluckily lived in a vanishing world of manners. It sounds a little bit like, what is that? To the Manor Born? Not To the Manor Born. That's different. It sounds like, what's the one with Bouquet? The woman who thinks that she's above everybody else, lives next door to the vicar. That British show. Her name is Bucket, but she says Bouquet. I can't remember the name of the show. But it reminds me of that a little bit. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Lots of people have loved Barbara Prim for many a decade. Maybe I will become one of them. Then there is another Mary Stuart on my Kindle. This Rough Magic. This one says, when Lucy comes to Corfu to visit her sister, she is elated to discover that the castello above their villa, I don't know, is being rented to Sir Julian Gale, one of the brightest lights in England's theatrical world. As a minor player in the London theatre herself, Lucy naturally wishes to meet him, that is, until her sister indicates with uncharacteristic vagueness that all is not well with Sir Julian, and that his composer son discourages visitors, particularly strangers. Yet, Lucy has already encountered Sir Julian's son on the morning of her arrival in a tempestuous run-in that involved the attempted shooting of a friendly dolphin. There better not actually be a dolphin death, because we know I don't track with that. Ooh, I have an arc. I have several arcs, but I have an arc that I'm very excited about, and that is The Invisible Hour by Alice Hoffman. It says, one brilliant June day, when Mia Jacob can no longer see a way to survive, the power of words save her. So basically, this girl, I think in the present day, is in a cult commune in Massachusetts, and she accidentally gets her hands on the Scarlet Letter and realizes that the Scarlet Letter is very similar. Hester's life is very similar to her own, and she wants to somehow meet Nathaniel Hawthorne, and I don't know how, but I think she gets to. So, I'm telling you, wild books on my TBR this time around. I almost said this year. I am going to read A Piece of the World by Christina Baker Klein. This has been on my shelf for over a year at least. I got it from Book Outlet, and it came to me autographed. I was so excited. So this is about a painting. Or a painter. It says, to Christina Olson, the entire world is her family farm in the small coastal town of Cushing, Maine. The only daughter in a family of sons, Christina is tied to her home by health and circumstance and seems destined for a small life. Instead, she becomes Andrew Wyeth's first great inspiration. Now, he's a real painter. And the subject of one of the best-known paintings of the 20th century, Christina's World. So I look forward to reading that one. Another arc I have is this one by Nina George, The Little Village of Book Lovers. Now, I read The Little Paris Bookshop last summer. Last summer? Yes, last summer. As one of my Library Against librarian recommendations, and I did not like it at all. So why did I request Nina George's The Little Village of Book Lovers? Because this is the book that the guy, what's his name? Jean Perdu. This is the book that the guy who runs the Little Paris Bookshop finds and reads. So I want to know what that book is. This is the book inside the book, and that intrigues me. So I'm going to go ahead and read this. I forgot to tell you that the Alice Hoffman comes out on August 15th, so you've got plenty of time. And The Little Village of Book Lovers comes out July 25th. Again, plenty of time. I think this is the last ARC I've put on this Kindle. ARC meaning Advanced Reader Copy. This one comes out on August 1st and it sounds phenomenal. So it says in 1930, Nell Fagan is a journalist on the trail of an intriguing and bizarre mystery. In 1606, a man vanished from a locked gatehouse in a remote Yorkshire village. And 300 years later, it happened again. Nell confides in the best sleuth she knows, Judge's daughter, Rachel Savernac. Thank goodness she does, because barely a week later, Nell disappears. And Rachel is left to put together the pieces of the puzzle. And that's as far as I'm going to read. I think that sounds awesome. This one comes out August 1st. I am going to read The Other Einstein. Mitza Merrick has always been a little different from other girls. An elite Zurich university with only male students trying to most 21-year-olds are wives by now, not studying physics at an elite university in Zurich, with only male students trying to outdo her clever calculations. But Mitza is smart enough to know that for her, math is an easier path than marriage. Then fellow student Albert Einstein takes an interest in her as the world turns sideways. Theirs becomes a partnership of the mind and of the heart, but there might not be room for more than one genius in a marriage. So Mitza Merrick is Einstein's first wife, and actually she's the one he's married to when he's going through like his genius era, his golden era, when he's coming up with all of his amazing things. And he's been known to say that when he was married to her, he was known to say he could never leave his wife because she did all the math. So some people argue, and I believe this book will also argue by Marie Benedict, that the real brilliant one was Mitza. But because of the time period she lived in and because of Albert's personality, she never got the credit. And actually, after Albert left her, abandoned her, and went off to marry his cousin, he didn't really have any other breakthroughs after that. So I'm just gonna leave that where it is. I've not read much nonfiction about that, but I have read some, and I've got a hankering to read the fictionalized version of her life. I have on my Kindle, I don't know if I'll get to it, but I would like to. It seems fun. I have a Victoria Holt, and that is the time of the Hunter's Moon. The Time of the Hunter's Moon. In this one, I think girls wish on the moon to see their future husbands or something, and she somehow has to make a choice between two men, and one is terrible and one is awesome. I don't know. It's going to be Victoria Holt. Like, it's going to be a little bit weird and a little bit creepy and a little bit romance and a lot of fun. I also have on my Kindle Miss Prim, and this just sounds delightful. It says at 25, Louisa Walker has carefully laid out the pattern of her life. The season in London, a few weeks of fashionable house parties, and the rest of the year spent visiting and organizing the lives of her 6 siblings and their children. Because of her age, refined nature, and strict moral code, she's considered to be Miss Prim. That's terrible. Louisa's guarded existence is disrupted when she accepts an invitation from her sister. She believes that she is simply helping her sister and brother-in-law by watching the children during their travel. However, upon her arrival, she meets William, and an adventure beyond her wildest imagination begins, starting with the questionable heritage of a baby in her care. She decides to join him on a secret quest to outwit French spies and thwart their evil plan. This sounds silly and wonderful and lighthearted and the perfect thing to read when I finish that Mary Stuart in my quiet reading time with each of my classes each day on my Kindle. I'm going to read, finally, The Heir Affair. Can you believe I have never read this book? Ever. I'm going to read The Heir Affair by Jasper Fforde. All I know is that it takes place in 1985 London, an alternate history London, in which books are alive or something like that. I don't really know. And I know that there is a detective, I think, named Thursday Next. That's all I know, and I'm excited to finally pick it up. The book is like, what, 23 years old, 22 years old? So excited to finally pick that one up. I am going to read another book off my shelf. I've had it for a while now. In Royal Service to the Queen, a novel of the Queen's governess. And so this one, I don't know if it's based on a true story or not. I need to look that up. I haven't looked that up yet. But this one is basically about this woman who is governess to Elizabeth II and Margaret. They love her and she loves them. And then Elizabeth II gets engaged and nobody wants her to marry him except for her governess. Then when finally Elizabeth, and she puts off her own marriage until Elizabeth gets permission to marry. And finally, as Elizabeth's getting married, some kind of big betrayal happens. I don't know. I'm gonna find out as I read the book, but it sounds fascinating. And I look forward to finding out if it's true or not. Then this one I'm gonna read sounds very much like another Christina Baker Klein that I read before. So Christina Baker Klein is the author of the one about the painter and the painting that I'm going to read. This book is by Hope Adams. It's called Dangerous Women. And it's about a group of women who go to Australia. At least one of them is a convict, I think. And a murder happens on the sea. And it's very similar to a book that I read called The Exiles by the other author, Christina Baker Klein, several years ago. So I'm interested in this. I'm sure, there's no new ideas under the sun. I'm sure that this will be its own story, but the premise is very similar. Then I'm going to read The Forgotten Cottage. Doesn't this just look like my book? It was written for me. And this is a dual timeline. One timeline takes place in 2014, one takes place in 1915, one takes place in England, one takes place in France. It says Audrey Collins knows only two things about her beloved grandmother's past. She was born into nobility and she immigrated to America at 17 years old. Then Audrey inherits her grand's home in Yorkshire and arrives expecting a sprawling country estate, but finds instead a small abandoned stone cottage that is like stuck in time, has been that way since the 1940s, including the ration book on the counter. And somehow a 1915 and a 2014 timeline are going to intersect. I am going to reread this one, but I'm going to read it in its finished copy for the first time. And that is The Secret of Hartwood Hall by Bookstagram's own Katie Lumsden. I've already read this. I've already reviewed this. I absolutely loved it. I'm excited to read it again. And this time I've also got, so cool, the audiobook from my library. So I'm going to listen to it and read it. I read The Ark before, but it was so wonderful that I had to purchase a hard copy. Plus, I just wanted to support her. When I read it the first time, I realized that this is full of the titles of Victorian novels. So I'm actually going to make a reading list for Victober from this book. I'm so excited. So excited to do that. Secrets of Hartwood Hall. It's about a young governess who is also a widow who shows up at a house to take care of a boy. And there are secrets there. Of course, it takes place in the Victorian era and it's wonderful. And this one just arrived today. It's a hardcover, but it's so tiny. Look at it in comparison to a normal hardcover. Look at that. It's so cute and tiny. But this is the new Jessie Q. Sutanto. So she wrote the Aunties, 4 Aunties and a Wedding, 4 Aunties and a Murder, I think. I love her writing. It is lighthearted and cute and fun and mysterious and unbelievable, laugh out loud funny. Totally have to give in to the fact that this is not reality. You have to suspend reality. This one is about this little old lady. Let's see. Vera Wong is a lonely little old lady, a lady of a certain age who lives above her forgotten tea shop in the middle of San Francisco's Chinatown. Despite living alone, Vera is not needy. Oh no, she likes nothing more than sipping on a good cup of oolong and doing some healthy detective work on the internet. internet about what her Gen Z son is up to. Then one morning, Vera trudges downstairs to find a curious thing, a dead man in the middle of her tea shop. I'm not going to read anything more than that. I am certain that I will love this, and I'm very excited to finally have my hands on it. I'm going to read, finally, The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I've had this. I pre-ordered this. It came to me right away when it was released. And because of the events of the summer, that summer where I lost my baby boy, Joey Dog, I just never got to it. There's so many books that I'm reading this year that I just never got to. This is one of them. Riley Sager. We know Riley Sager. You have probably read this book before me. I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm going to read it, and I've got the next Riley Sager in pre-order. I hate to love him. I love to hate him. It goes both ways. I love his premise. I hate the way he writes women, but I love his premise. So I will continue to give him my money. I just will. Let's be honest with ourselves. I am going to listen to Nothing to See Here. This is the one about the nanny and the two kids that spontaneously combust. I have steered clear of it for years now, but I did just hear somebody talk about it in a little bit of a more tender way, and so I'm actually curious now. Got it from my library. I'm gonna give it a listen. This was in the same boat as The House Across the Lake. I just didn't get to it. This is another thriller detective mystery. This is by Sarah Pierce, and it's the second book following The Sanatorium. Now, I did not enjoy The Sanatorium, but I think that I like her premise. What I didn't enjoy about The Sanatorium was the detective woman, and I didn't realize when I ordered this that this was going to feature the same character. But I'm going to give it a try. I've got it. I own it. I'm going to read it, but I know better now. Sarah Pierce seems to have really great premise with a detective I really can't stand, but maybe that will be improved for this one. I don't know. We'll see. The premise of this one is that there is a retreat center on an island. The island, apparently, in its recent past, was home to a serial killer, and it's apparently cursed. There are people who are on the island to be at the retreat center, and there is somebody else who's on the island who's not supposed to be there. That is all I know. That is all I want to know. That's more than I want to know, to be honest. Then I'm going to continue on in the, I guess I'll call it the Rachel Joyce series. This is the second book following The Pilgrimage of Harold Frye. This is the love song of Miss Queenie Hennessy. So I'm going to read this one. I loved Whistling Season so much that I got the second book from the library. So I'm going to read Work Song by Ivan Doig and continue that series. I'm going to read the last book in this Alice in Wonderland retelling from the perspective of the Queen of Hearts. So that's going to be The War of the Cards. I'm going to read the newly released second book in Air of Uncertain Magic. This follows, it's the Wimble. What was the name? It's a cozy, feel-good little house with like a blue and purple cover. I can't remember the name of the first book. But this one is about Merritt and Huldah tamed his house before. And so I'm gonna continue on with this series. I'm gonna read the next book, of course, in the Drums of Autumn series. In the Outlander series, the next book is The Drums of Autumn. I'll listen to that. That worked well. I may decide to take a break from Poldark. You'll see that I decided not to read the next book in the fourth book that's kind of like a prequel in the Discovery of Witches series. I've just decided, I may pick it up later this year, but I've just decided I'm done with that series for right now. And you will also see that the Arcana series doesn't have a book this month. That's because originally I planned to read Day Zero, which is a novella. The only way to get my hands on this is to purchase a copy, and I'm not going to pay that much. I'm not going to pay what they're asking for a novella. It's also not essential to the story. So I'm taking a break from Arcana this month, and we'll pick it back up again next month. Poldark, I may need to take a break this month, but I've got it on the TBR. We'll see, but I'll read the next one in Poldark. And then I'm going to listen to Enchantment, Awakening Wonder in an Anxious Age by Catherine May. This is about tapping into the idea of wonder, and I'm excited about that. I enjoyed her book Wintering, which was about like hibernation. Really enjoyed that. I'm gonna read, this is one that's been on many a TBR, and I've never gotten to it. I'm gonna finally read Uncultured. You can see cult in there. This is written by a woman who grew up in the Children of God cult. She was pretty high up in the, like her family was pretty high up in the cult. She leaves at the age of 15, enrolls herself in high school, graduates valedictorian, joins the military thinking that now she is educated and independent and self-assured, but finds in the army a group of men that she is in Afghanistan that she feels behave very similarly to the hierarchical system that was found in the cult. And so this is an interesting take on a cult survivor. I think that I've not read anything kind of like this before, so I'm interested to see what she has to say. I don't really know what her perspective will be, or what the similarities she's going to point out are, but I think it's very much psychological. I think it's very much about positions of power and things like that, so I'm interested. I'm going to listen to the Rural Diaries by Hilary Burton Morgan. Now, I watched, when I lived in India, on TV, on this, basically the equivalent of the CW. It was called Sky World. We had the Sky World channel, and they showed a lot of American and British shows. And one of the shows they showed was One Tree Hill. So I started watching it, even though I think it was almost over by the time I started watching it. But I started watching it in India, and I loved it. I really did. But she starred in One Tree Hill. She was one of the love interests, and her husband was in The Walking Dead. He is Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Well, they decide that they don't want to live the Hollywood lifestyle anymore, and they instead buy a home, a farm, I think in Maine. And this is her story of like transitioning from one kind of hectic lifestyle into something a little slower. I think they run a llama farm. I think it sounds cute. It sounds cute, and it's a memoir, and I'll read it. I also have for my library this one. I don't know how to say his last name, but he's Jamie in Outlander. Sam Hugan? That's probably wrong. But he's written a memoir called Waypoints, and I'm excited to read this one. It says, journey deep into the Scottish Highlands in the first memoir by bestselling author and award-winning star of Outlander, Sam, whatever your last name is, I don't want to butcher it a second time, exploring his life and reflecting on the waypoints that define him. In this intimate journey of self-discovery, Sam sets out along Scotland's rugged 96-mile West Highland Way to map out the moments that shaped his view on dreams and ambition and family. So I'm excited to read that. I also have this really interesting book that I picked up from Book Outlet a while ago. I had never heard of it, and I've never seen anybody read it. But it's just the kind of thing that I really like to read in a nonfiction. It's called Water, Wood, and Wild Things, Learning Craft and Cultivation in a Japanese Mountain Town. And it is about this woman who, she's a chef. I think she lives in New York. And she gets invited to an old, like, historically run and accurate, like doing the old ways, sake bar in a tiny town in Japan. And she's told that she can apprentice there with like this sake master. But in order to really learn sake, she has to learn all these other parts, all these other things too, like farming and like wood preparation and all of these different things. So she learns all of these other skills and also culture while trying to master the art of preparing. I don't know how to fermenting. I don't know. Sake. So I am excited about that. It's slow and process-based, and I really like nonfiction like that. It's also a memoir. You know I love a memoir. You know I love a memoir. I'm going to read The Teachers. This just arrived today too. This was a pre-order. This is by Alexandra Robbins. A Year Inside America's Most Vulnerable, Important Profession. So she, I think, does a case study of 3 particular teachers in different parts of the states teaching. I think one's a special ed teacher, one's a middle school math teacher, and one's an elementary teacher. So she kind of follows them through their whole year, but then she also has essays and discussions about different things like school shootings and things that really touch teachers' lives every day. So she's got stuff like that in here, statistics and just all sorts of information, interviews, lots and lots of interviews. I think she interviewed thousands of teachers in the United States over the course of a few years. And it's all here. I haven't even cracked it open yet, but I am interested and curious to see what she has to say. And then also today, I don't even know if I'm going to get the name of this right, because it just arrived today. It is an ARC, and it is, I think it's Salmon, something like that. I'm going to put the picture up right here, but it's by Andrew McCarthy. He is from the Brat Pack from the 1980s, and I loved him in, well, I didn't love him, but I loved the movie that he was in, Pretty in Pink. Pretty in Pink. I loved it. I loved Ducky. But I loved him in Pretty in Pink. I just said Ducky, and that is the name of Lola's favorite toy. And she was like, different duck. Anyway, he wrote a memoir of walking the Camino Trail with his son when his son was a teenager. And I want to read that. I think it's called Sam and I, or Me and Sam, something like that. And I just got it. I don't know when it's coming out. I'll put that on the screen here too. But I haven't even downloaded it to my Kindle yet, but I will. And I'm really excited to read that one. I'm thinking it'll probably be one of the first books I read. I love things that take place in the Camino Trail. Person who wrote the Rosie Project also wrote a book about the Camino Trail, and I really, really loved that one. The name is leaving my mind right now. But you know what? I've been talking for way longer than I wanted to. That was a really long stack of books, but they all sound so good, and I want to read them all, and I think I can every month. I think I can. So we'll see what I actually read. There are definitely a few on there that I wouldn't mind dropping, like maybe the Victoria Holt or maybe The Retreat by Sarah Pierce. Like those will probably be the first 2 to go if I can't get to everything. But I really, really, really want to get to them all. I can also smell that my food is probably done. I need to go get that. But what are you reading in the month of April? Do you have any special plans? I'm not participating in anything except for read harder, obviously. Oh, one of these is my, which one is it? One of these is, oh, I know which one it is. My buzzword book. I'm doing buzzword. And I keep forgetting to tell you which book goes with which buzzword. This month, in April, it's emotion words, and enchantment is my book. Because that's the one by the woman who wrote Wintering, because she's like got the word wonder in there, like awakening wonder. And wonder is an emotion word. And nobody can convince me otherwise. So that is my buzzword book. So I'm doing buzzword-a-thon. I'm doing, I don't know if it's a thon anymore, the buzzword challenge. I'm doing read harder challenge. Told you about those. I'm doing my book of the month book. I'm reading that. I've read every book of the month as it's come in. I'm so proud of myself. I am doing my 12 and 12s, my 2 12 and 12s. Is that it? Those are the only things that I'm, and Kindred Spirits Book Club. Those are the only things that I'm participating in this particular month. No other readathons or anything like that. I'm sure there are a million wonderful things going on. Not for me in April. Yeah, I think in April I have spring break. It's pretty sad that I don't know when my spring break is. And if that's the case, then I probably can read all these books because I'll have plenty of time. I'm gonna go get the food out of the oven. I'm gonna stop jabbering away, I am going to ask you if you're reading any of these, or if you have any fun, exciting things on your list that you think I might enjoy as well, or if you've already read any of these and maybe you're thinking, oh, she can definitely drop that one, or oh, she definitely needs to put that one at the top of her list. Let me know. In the meantime, let's go read.